Most people think Paul McCartney had a perfect life after the Beatles ended. He didn't. Behind the fame, behind the music, there was pressure, fear, and a lifetime of loss that never really left him. In 1973, while recording Band on the Run in Lagos, Nigeria, everything started to fall apart. Band members quit just days before the trip. Equipment failed. The studio was uncomfortable and unpredictable. And then one night, while McCartney and his wife Linda were walking with demo tapes, the early heart of the album, armed men attacked them. The tapes were stolen. Everything they had built in silence disappeared in seconds. He later described the moment simply: they were petrified. As if that wasn't enough, health scares followed. Stress overwhelmed him. Collapse followed exhaustion. And still, he kept recording. That album, born out of chaos, would later become one of Wings' greatest successes. But chaos didn't end there. Years later, in 1980, McCartney landed in Japan for a tour. Instead of applause, he was arrested at the airport after cannabis was found in his luggage. He was held for days, labeled a prisoner, and the entire tour collapsed instantly. A career high turned into a humiliating public setback. Still, he kept moving. Because McCartney's life had always been shaped by a deeper kind of pain. When he was just 14, he lost his mother, Mary McCartney, to cancer. That grief never fully healed. It followed him into adulthood, into fame, into every success. Even the Beatles' breakup carried emotional weight. The public blamed him, but the reality was more complicated. Friendships fractured. Trust collapsed. A global empire of music slipped from their control. Then came personal loss again. In 1998, his wife Linda McCartney died after a long battle with cancer. After nearly 30 years together, McCartney described the grief as something that didn't fade, it just changed shape. He stepped back from the world, spending long periods in silence, focusing on his children and survival more than fame. A later marriage to Heather Mills ended in a highly public and bitter divorce, adding another painful chapter under media scrutiny. Through all of it, one thing never stopped: music. Even in his 80s, McCartney still performs, still writes, still steps on stage for hours without losing energy. For him, it isn't just performance, it's continuity. A way of keeping everyone he lost still present in sound. John Lennon. George Harrison. Linda. His mother. They are never far from the music. For decades, he carried the weight of being the Beatle who broke the Beatles. But over time, history became clearer. The truth was more complex than headlines ever allowed. In 2023, he even used modern technology to complete Now and Then, restoring the voice of John Lennon from an old demo. It wasn't just a song, it felt like closing a circle that had stayed open for decades. And yet, despite everything, McCartney didn't disappear into the past. In 2011, he found a quieter kind of happiness with his marriage to Nancy Shevell. Less chaos. Less noise. More calm. Today, in his 80s, he still writes, still performs, still shows up for the world he helped shape. But behind it all, there is a simple truth. His life was never just fame or fortune. It was survival. A story built on music, but held together by loss, memory, and the stubborn decision to keep going anyway. And maybe that is why he never truly stopped. Because for Paul McCartney, the song was never finished. It just kept changing key.